Hey everybody, welcome to the Ronline Report. Today's guest is very familiar to you if you're a fan of the Classic Physique division. He has been second, fourth, and fifth at the Olympia, second to Arnold Classic. He's currently in preparation for the Olympia. I keep wanting to say Mr. Olympia. For the Olympia, this is Arash Rahbar. How are you, Arash?
I'm great, Ron. What's up, guys? Thank you for having me.
So looking at your competitive record, I see this is the first time in over 2 years, since you didn't compete between the 16 and 17 Olympias, correct? That was the last time you had a full year between shows?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So this is it. You're doing it once again. You know, what's the difference between taking that full year and really planning things out versus doing like a spring show or you always did spring shows before that.
Well, I think if you're whole and you don't have any injuries or any issues, I think it's good to compete. Some people talk about being fresh. I think it depends on the athlete. I see guys doing 6-7 shows in a season and they're okay. So it's all about the condition you keep year round, and also how easy it is to peak for a show. I think those are the two factors that come into play. For me, I was fried after last year. I think I beat myself up. I pushed myself way too hard. Yeah. I had my metabolism was shot come Olympia time. I had adrenal fatigue, and I've been battling a couple small, I don't want to call them injuries because I hate to use that word, but a couple bumps and bruises. So I needed the year to not only improve my physique, but just get better, get back to 100% or as close as I can. It's when our careers progress, everyone's different. But the beginning of my career, I was a bit younger and I was pretty fresh. And as your career progresses, sometimes you're battling for the top position. Is when you've been in it and you have some battle wounds. And I'm not running at 110% all the time. So it's always working around a couple aches and pains, bumps and bruises, so on and so forth. Like most of the top guys, Yeah.
I mean, you've been training for 25, 26 years at this point, but you've only been competing since, what was your first show, 2013, 2014?
2014.
2014. So you're still very, very new to the competitive side of it. Do you think it helps in terms of being a little fresher with your body that you haven't put it through 20, 30, 40 preps like some of these guys I know?
Yeah, I do, absolutely. But I trained intense and very, very heavy blunt force trauma, high intensity overload training, Dorian Yates style for 18 years. So the bumps and bruises that I'm talking about now are from that 26 years compounded over, over time. So yes, you could beat yourself up during preps and peaking for shows, or you can become seasoned and you can learn your body. I've probably done the least amount of bodybuilding shows out of the top 5, possibly top 10 in the Olympia. So as far as peaking and looking my best, I haven't even come close to it. Yeah. Almost every single Classic Physique show I've done, the last week was a different protocol. And not so much that it was because I was searching for something different, but something different was needed at that time. There's sometimes my weight was a lot higher than other times. So a big factor also with Classic is we have to make the weight. There's some guys that cruise in and they're underweight a few pounds, so they don't have to do anything. Right. I have to make weight. So regardless how I look 2 weeks out, I have to drop 10 or more pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the limit for you is 215 for your height?
215. In 2016, it was 205. 2017, 210. 18, 215, and it didn't change for this year, so it stopped.
Do you want them to keep bumping it up?
Honestly, I don't think I need it so much. I think it'd just be a little easier to make weight. But that being said, yes, because the classic look, in my opinion, it doesn't go by these weights. For 5'10" and a quarter, 215, that's not what the guys in the 70s and 80s were. Maybe Frank Zane would make it, but nobody else.
Dude, we've talked about this before, I think, but what about just getting rid of the height and weight restrictions and going by the look? Because if it doesn't matter what you weigh, if you don't have the look that they're supposedly is the ideal, you're not going to do well anyway.
I agree, but I guess I understand why they did it. People said, why don't we have all the mandatories? Why don't we have different trunks? It's because they're differentiating between bodybuilding. If they don't do that, then, if they take the weights away, then it's going to be difficult, because there's a lot of guys that I see that I look at their physiques, I say, oh, wow, that's Classic. And they're nowhere near making the weight.
Right.
So then if that guy comes and he beats everybody, then there's another guy that's going to come a little bit bigger than him. And the next thing you know, the same thing happens that happened to Open.
Yeah.
You know?
Same thing basically happened in women's physique. It's happening. They created it because women's bodybuilding had gone too far. I really feel like Classic was created because Open had gone too far to an extreme, and a lot of fans were just turned off by it. And we got a lot of those fans back, and we got a lot of new fans who never would have been drawn to the sport or to the industry if it had just been looking at guys like Phil and Rami and Rolly. You know, they're like, that's an alien. I don't want to look like that. What the hell is that? But they see, you know, a physique like yours, a physique like Bumstead or Breon, and they're like, okay, that's a little more realistic.
I mean, I was a fan. I am a fan of bodybuilding, and I looked up to the guys in the '90s, and that's the way I wanted to look. To be perfectly honest, I don't look at the Classic, too many guys in Classic, or myself, and say, oh wow, that's the perfect look. But for me, the perfect look was the '90s. You know, the Kevin Levrone, the Dorian in his prime. Flex Wheeler, even Ronnie Coleman. I wanted to look like Ronnie for many years, you know. So for me, Classic it doesn't have that look just yet. I think it's evolving. I'm evolving. I don't think I've been at my best. So, but I agree. You know, it has to do with the judging. If size keeps getting rewarded, then everyone's gonna be pushing the envelope, and they're gonna give up a little bit of the symmetry and a little bit of the conditioning, and that's what happened in Open.
Yeah. So. Classic, because it's so new, we still have new stars rising. Every year there's at least two or three new guys who there's a lot of buzz around. Like this year it's Steve Laureus, obviously, got a lot of talk, a lot of buzz. Keon Pearson, someone people are going to keep an eye on. Alex Cambronero, who just moved on. You know, do you pay much attention to the guys coming up? Because, you know, I know you see it from a different perspective, but a lot of the fans, they just go Google over any new person that wins a show, and they think, this is the second coming of Classic. This guy right here.
Yeah.
You know, do you take it a little? You don't get I'm sure you're not as easily impressed.
I see everybody, but I don't look in as much. But I don't think that's because I'm not easily impressed. I'm very impressed. I think it's just my personality. Like, I played football and never watched it. I raced cars and never follow it. I've never followed or watched any sport. Wow. Bodybuilding I watch the most, but to really like take notes on every single show and every competitor what they want, it's not me. I've never done that. But you know, there's guys coming up, really, really good guys, and I know back in the back of my head what and who is the future of the sport. There's guys that, in my opinion, again, I'm very, very honest, you know, some people might get upset at things I say, but in my opinion, there's guys that are somewhere floating in the top 10 that have potential structurally, genetically, symmetrically to be better than the whole top 5. They're just not there yet, either size-wise or maturity. You mentioned Keon. Keon made a huge improvement this year, and he is someone to look at. And I think he's an amazing physique. You know, I look at Keon's physique, and it's very, very pleasing. So you can't win a show for just being pleasing. You can't win a show for just being conditioned. You can't win a show for just being big. You need all of those, okay? And if you and the guy next to you are just as aesthetic and just as conditioned, and he's bigger, he's going to win. Yeah. You know, so this is a bodybuilding show. And from the first, I was never confused. When they announced it in 2016 before the first show, I said it. I said it to my close friends. I said, listen, this is bodybuilding. You know, we cannot go backwards and start rewarding less conditioned athletes because we want a 70s look. It doesn't work that way. Right. You know, it's not possible.
It would be nice, though, wouldn't it? You could stop dieting right now. You'd be all done. You'd be in contest condition.
And then a lot of people were saying, oh, well, they don't look Classic. Well, of course we're not going to look Classic. Besides the fact that we have different haircuts and different tan on, you know, most of us don't have mustaches. Yeah. When you are shredded to the bone and dry, you have a different look. You have a graininess and a vascularity that might not even be appealing to a lot of people. It might be ugly looking. Yeah. Whereas the guys back then, they weren't as lean, they weren't as dry. It was really nice. It was a really pleasing look. It's just different, you know? We have veins running from head to toe, literally in our earlobes, you know? So it's gonna be a different look.
Yeah.
You know, and at the end of the day, it's not a genetic contest. Genetics will prevail if all else equal. But you can't reward someone just because they were born with a different style rib cage or something. You know what I mean? I've seen some guys that are just structurally, the way that they're built just looks like they're from 30 years ago.
Yeah, I got to throw in this because you just mentioned how veins would look, ugly. In the 1950s, I'm sure you've heard of Vince Aranda.
Yeah.
The late Vince Aranda. He competed in condition that was probably 30, 40 years ahead of its time. I'm sure a lot of it was genetic. He probably just was a very, very lean guy naturally. But he did have a lot of unique nutrition views. But anyway, he was very vascular, and he did contests like the Mr. America, and he would be placed dead last.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Because they thought it was disgusting.
Absolutely. If you're the only one, in amateur shows, people always sometimes come up to me, oh, what happened? What happened? I said, there's a theme. In every division, there's always a theme. If you have if the top few guys are really big, that's the theme of that class. If the top few guys are super small and aesthetic, the bigger guys are going to place further back and get confused. And if no one is vascular, the one vascular guy is not going to win back then, at least, Yeah.
Do you find it funny how, based on one contest, people will say, well, this is the new trend. George Peterson won the Arnold, so this is where it's going. Now they don't want people with this shape. They want more of a bodybuilder look. They'll base it on just one show.
George is a phenomenal bodybuilder. George won that show hands down because he was the best bodybuilder there.
Yeah.
It's a bodybuilding competition at the end of the day, In the top 6, you got a couple of guys. Everyone's different, like Breon is not Mr. Olympia because he's so classic looking. He's Mr. Olympia because he's the best bodybuilder up there. He doesn't really have many flaws. He's conditioned. He's well proportioned, and he's winning the shows. Can it be argued that there are guys with better shape and symmetry or the look of the 70s and 80s? Absolutely. But do they have the muscularity, condition, and flow to beat Breon? No. Not yet. Right? Not yet.
Not yet. Never say never. Do you, Steve Laureus and George Peterson, all train at Bevan Steve's Powerhouse?
Absolutely, yeah.
How crazy is that? 3 of the very best classic physique pros in the world are at one gym in Long Island.
Once in a while we talk about it. Like me, I talk to Juan every day. I see him there. Steve, I see sometimes. George, they're both good friends of mine. I'm very close to George. I don't see George all the time because he trains later at night. But sometimes we talk about it. We're like, it's pretty crazy. But I don't think about it. But now that you say it, yeah, it's nuts.
It makes sense for Oxygen Gym, but they're importing those guys.
Yeah.
Those aren't like all Kuwaitis.
Yeah.
Rolly Winkler and this and that. But you guys all live within driving distance, obviously, and that's your gym.
Yeah.
I think it's insane that, I believe next year you 3 could all be in the top 5. I only say that because I think Steve he's skipping out. He's sitting out the Olympia this year.
Yeah, Steve, Steve knows my opinion about him and his physique and the potential that he has. Yeah. I've told him, Steve has something special. It's just up to him if he's going to, take it there and utilize it, Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I asked you this. I did not ask you this in the last interview. I think it came up as a big deal right after that was the vacuum pose debate where some people were suggesting it should be a mandatory pose in Classic. And people argued it both ways. I don't know if you answered it in some other interview or not, but where do you weigh in?
It's tough because you're asking me, right? You're asking a guy that hasn't really successfully hit a vacuum on stage, so people will say it's biased. I'm very unbiased. I'll tell you my honest opinion. First of all, I don't have one of those crazy vacuums that sucks in under the rib cage. That's not me, but I am able to pull a vacuum. If you look at my Instagram pictures, a week out, 2 weeks out of the shows, I'm pulling them. Right now at 238 pounds in the mornings, I have no issue pulling it. I've never successfully been able to pull it on stage because I've always dehydrated and killed myself so much to make weight. And then the way into stage time is short. So I'm hydrating and eating. And my stomach has always been disrupted. So that's one of my goals this year, to be able to hold it and have a nice vacuum. Do I think it should be mandatory? No. Do I think if it makes you look, some guys don't look great with it.
Right.
And it's not something that everyone can do, and can everyone practice a vacuum and get a better midsection and pull somewhat of a vacuum? Yes. Can everybody pull one of those deep vacuums? I don't think so. There's many variables that come into play, and one of them is the distance. I don't know why no one talks about this, between the bottom of your rib and your hip bone.
Yeah.
That's a huge factor,
Long torsos.
long torsos. Look at Juan Morel. You know, I always use Juan as an example. The guy is massive. He's huge. He eats insane amounts of food to carb up that muscular physique, and his stomach is always flat. Me and Juan have tanned together. He walked out of the tanning room, and before one of the shows, we both did the same show, and everybody knows when Juan carbs up, you have no clue. I mean, it's an insane amount of calories. And his stomach was so flat. And my theory behind that, and he has a tiny waist, is that his torso is long, so his stomach and his organs are span over a longer space, you know? I mean, I might be completely wrong and people laughing at me, but it makes sense to me.
It's got to be something, because just the volume of the food you're talking about, where is it? Where'd it go?
I mean, listen, since I was a kid, forget bodybuilding, when I was younger, if I had a huge meal, my stomach would protrude. Yeah. And I have like kind of an exaggerated lordosis. Anyone that doesn't know, that's a curvature of your lower back, which actually has given me, since I've gotten heavier, it's given me some issues. You have that too?
Oh yeah, it sucks.
So when you're standing in long periods of time, or if you're at a carnival or at the mall, your lower back gives out. Yeah. And the bigger you get, the worse it is, you know? So like I put on so much weight, I'm top heavy, and it goes backwards, you know?
Is it, if you sleep on your stomach for more than a couple hours, you wake up with a horrible lower back pain?
Couple hours, I can't lay on my stomach for more than 2 minutes. When I get a deep tissue massage, getting up when I'm laying on my stomach, I can't get up. I need someone's help. It's really bad. I've gone through 3 beds in the past 12 months. Damn. Search for the perfect bed, like Tempur-Pedic, memory foam. I just gave them a plug. Send me a check, Tempur.
Yeah, look at that. That's a lot. The beds are not cheap. That's a lot of money you just blew through.
They're thousands of dollars. And you want to hear the funny thing? Yeah. I slept on a piece of crap IKEA futon for like 12 years. I turned pro with that thing. It was lumpy. It's not even a bed. It's like it's meant for a couch. And I don't know how I was getting away with it, but things started to kind of poke their head. I wake up in the morning stiff, like my hips, my lower back. So I was like, I gotta upgrade.
So getting back to the making weight issue, you run about 250 normally in the off season, right?
Accidentally, yeah. I don't really try to get that heavy.
Have you ever thought about, you know what you're doing. I'm not throwing this out there out of nowhere, but have you ever thought about staying a little lighter so that you wouldn't have to go through these issues in the last week or two trying to get down to 215?
I bulked up when I was like 20 years old, not even competing, and hit like 255. It was sloppy and fat. This off season, I was just beat up. My metabolism was shot, and honestly, I was eating close to nothing, and I was 250. I was eating very little. I wasn't handling carbs well. I was getting sloppy easy. When I started dieting, I started soon this year for the Olympia. When I started dieting, I started eating more food. And I remember doing my first cheat meal with my girlfriend. We ate the same thing. Yeah. She had a burger at Five Guys. I had a burger at Five Guys, and we shared a large fries, and I could barely finish mine. Second week, third week, then I had a burger and a half. I had the mini burger they have. Yeah. And then finally my metabolism started coming back, and it was from eating more and obviously training and light cardio, and the appetite went up too. But I wasn't eating an obscene amount to get to 250. I can hit 250 easily. But again, it's not a ripped up 250. You know, I didn't stay considerably lean in the off season. There's some guys that walk around ripped to shreds. It's just not me.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, so your body wants to grow. It wants to put on more weight and size. It sounds like.
Yeah, I believe so. I think when you're bodybuilding for so many years, and then you're at the competitive level that we are, the body doesn't say, you know, if your genetic limit is somewhere, okay, fine. But me, I think I have the capability to be a lot heavier. You know?
I want to get back to the 90%. You've never been more than 90%, and I definitely agree with that, because so many times I'm one of those people that I watch the progress pictures, and then I pay very close attention when I get to the show, and I can see who flattened out, who spilled over. You know, it happened. 90% of people don't look, I don't think, as good as they should on show day, because it's such a tricky process. There's so many variables. Yeah. So how can I know I'm sure you've taken detailed notes on all your preps on the last week and everything. Do you think you figured out enough variables to tweak that you can come very close to 100% this year for the Olympia?
I think I've had enough experience and figure out a lot of variables to be confident in what I'm going to do for this year. I don't think it's anything crazy, anything tricky. I think you just need to be really, really conditioned and as close to the weight as possible. So when you have body fat, whatever it is, it holds a little bit of water. So the less body fat, the less water. Yeah. And then, you know, the first 2 years when I did 2016 to 17, I never ate carbs before weigh-in, believe it or not. And I was working with a coach at this time, but I never had carbs. So Pittsburgh Pro and New York Pro that I won, I weighed in at like 9 or 10 a.m. I think it was 9 a.m. And then I ate like 1 or 2 carb meals and competed. Yeah. And you know better than me, a completely depleted physique takes 2 days to come back. Yeah. You know, and then 2017, I had to lose like 20 pounds of water in 4 days. Prejudging, I was dead. Night show, you could go look at the pictures. I was 40% better. It was too late. We don't get judged of the night. You know, and last year's Olympia, I was dead. I mean, it was an embarrassing showing for me. I wasn't fresh and conditioned enough. My body was shot, but most importantly, water, carbs, and sodium, it was too much. And I ended up getting very, very soft and losing any conditioning that I did have. I believe a big factor, even for a lot of my clients that need to make weight, is you have some carbs before weigh-in, so your glycogen stores aren't completely depleted. Maybe they're 40, 50, 60%. So after weigh-in, you don't have to shovel tons of carbs down your throat and rehydrate, because the combination of the two is what makes you soft, or at least what makes me soft. So for me, a big thing after weigh-in is going to be rehydrating.
So how much time, it seems like it changes every year. Do you know the schedule this year for when you weigh in and when you go on stage at the Olympia? It's
the day before, you know, so it's been different, you know, it's been different. In the first year Olympia, we had the most amount of time out of, as far as I know, any classic physique show in the IFBB. Wow. We weighed in Thursday afternoon, didn't compete till Saturday.
Wow.
And if you guys go back and look at me in 2016, Pittsburgh Pro, New York Pro, I looked like this compared to what I looked like at the Olympia. If you put my double back bicep pictures or any of the pictures together, it looks like an amateur versus a pro. I was so much bigger and fuller and just more pleasing looking at the Olympia. I mean, how much muscle could you possibly gain between New York Pro and Olympia? It's not that long, you know? It was the hydration. I rehydrated.
Is that, you know, you haven't done many shows, but is that your favorite look so far, 2016 Olympia?
2016 Olympia combined with 2018 Arnold, because 2018 Arnold, I think, was my sharpest, best conditioning. But again, I didn't have enough water, so I wasn't as full as I could have been. 2016 Olympia, I think I had a great look, but I was, in my own opinion, being unbiased, I was a little bit soft looking, but I looked very classic. My conditioning was great. If you look at the pictures in my hotel room 2 days before, I told you I hydrated and I carved up, but it was for a day and a half, all of Friday, the half of Thursday, and Saturday morning. It was a bit much, and I think I spilled a little bit from behind. But that being said, I'm such a bigger guy now. 2016 Olympia was 205 weigh-in. I'm carrying at least 10 pounds, 15 pounds more muscle. Yeah. So I think this year, I'm probably right now, as we speak, I'm the most well-rounded. My legs have come up a lot. My arms got a lot bigger this year, which I didn't even realize, but I measured them the other day and people keep telling me in the gym. And my back is just a little bigger.
Hold on, you got to say what the measurement was now.
I think it was a little...
You don't have to measure them in front of me, just tell me.
No, it's only fair. You know how it works. People don't believe you, so let's measure it.
They'll say it's you fake tape measure or something. CGI. They'll say it's CGI.
It's 20 inches.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
So that's not bad for me. I've never had tremendous peaks. I'm not a peaky type of guy, you know, and my back, I think I have a nice shaped back. I just think I need more detail, more thickness to compete against the Brians and the Georges, you know? Yeah. Look, in classic physique, all the taller guys, and by taller, I mean over 5'10" and up.
I thought you were going to say anything over 5'5" is tall in bodybuilding.
I have a hard time with the legs and or back, right? So like Chris has phenomenal legs, and he needs to work on his back. Most of the guys, it's either one or the other. The shorter guys in classic are the most well-rounded. You know, I said this in 16 when it came out. Anytime you have a weight cutoff in a division, it always caters to the shorter guys. Yeah. Not making any excuses, it's just the way it is.
I mean, that being said, you know, I think Brian's got a phenomenal physique, but if Brian was like 5'10" with the same exact proportions, it'd be more impressive.
Would be. But could he be? Because at 5'10", when you take those quads and you make them longer, when you take that torso and make it longer, you need more muscle. Yeah. And at 5'10", your bone structure is most likely going to be bigger and heavier. So now we're talking about a much bigger weight. So would Breon at 5'10" at 215 look like that? Because that's my weight in 5'10", 215.
This is a fantasy scenario. It's
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's like I used to say, if Jose Raymond was 6 foot, what would he weigh? 400 pounds.
He would look awesome. Jose still looks awesome.
He does. Jose's great. So the last time we talked, you were getting a lot of work on. You had a little. We don't call them injuries because anybody who's training long enough, you just have little aches and pains, things that bother you, things that irritate you during training. So back when we talked last, it was your TFL, your tensor fascia latae. You were getting a ton of different therapies on it. So how is that feeling now, and how's your leg training been?
I'm still battling that, man. If anyone's watching and has an answer for me, send me a message. The reason I was late for this interview is because I was just having it worked on for 2.5 hours. It still bothers me. It's not an injury. It's both sides. My IT bands are tight. My TFL is tight. My outer quad is tight. Some days I become a master of working around it on leg days. I focus on a lot of negatives, a lot of slow reps. Last week I had an awesome workout. I was sore for 4 or 5 days after. Today I trained legs and it was really tough. It took me like 45 minutes to actually feel like I was training because it hurt so much in the beginning. All the focus was on the pain, not on the muscle. So it's something I'm still battling, but I've been able to improve my quads for sure. They're definitely bigger. My quads, my outer sweep, which has been my main focus. And I owe that to just overthinking and technique and form and foot placement and, the slowing down of the reps and the negatives. So,
yeah, outer sweep is something a lot of guys have to build if they weren't genetically blessed with a lot of great sweep. And, do you use a real close foot stance on a lot of things like hacks and leg presses for that?
Yes and no. Everyone says close foot stance, but what they're missing is if the feet are high or low on the platform. Your feet can be close, but if it's high on the platform, when you see guys leg pressing 15 plates, go look where their feet are. Their feet are all the way at the top.
Yeah, it's all glute.
And that's a lot of glute and hamstring. So my foot placement is really, really low. Sometimes my heels will actually come off the bottom of the platform. Yeah. So on hack squats, on leg press, I go as low as I can without the heels lifting, and that's going to target the quads. Yeah. Now, that's what hurts me the most too, because that hurts the TFL the most. I'll even do close, low, and then I'll stay low and go wide in the feet out, and people think that doesn't hit the outer quad. After I do that, I'll do like 10 and 10 or 15 and 15. Right. Those last 10 or 15 reps of the feet wide destroys my outer quad.
Yeah, because technically that's like if you think of it in a pre-exhaust sort of sense, you're doing the close stance first, so you're pre-exhausting the lateralis, the vascularis, the outer quads, and then when you bring them back out, you're bringing the rest of the quad into play to drive it further into exhaustion. That's a great idea.
I think more feet close together, yes, for outer quad, absolutely. But more importantly, feet low on the platforms, pushing through your heels, which is like duh, but a lot of people don't do it because I see their heels coming up. Right. They push through their toes and stop at 90 degrees. That whole ass to grass thing, like I squatted ass to grass for years. It's cool, it's hardcore, but it's not necessarily bodybuilding. Well, an Olympic squat is not necessarily the best bodybuilding movement. For me, it's easier to squat ass to grass without bouncing, going down and all the way up. To stop at 90 degrees is very difficult for me.
Kills your knees, right?
No, I don't have bad knees. It doesn't hurt my knees, but it's all quads. Yeah. It's all quads. When you stop at 90 degrees, it's your quads. When you go below, when you go all the way down, yeah, and your knee is completely bent, the quad is completely stretched out, elongated. Right. It's the weakest point. So that initial 1, 2, 3, 4 inches is glute and hamstring. Yeah.
Well, but that's why it's a great. I advocate doing them that way because it's going to hit the whole leg.
Absolutely.
You want glutes, hams, quads. You want everything. But
I totally agree. But a lot of guys are, squatting primarily for their quad development.
Yeah. What about your back? I know you've worked hard to bring that up. Have you found anything that you can share with the viewers that's really helped you out the past year or two for your back?
Absolutely. Besides arm placement, angles, a lot of underhand grip, pulling to my hip, pulling close to the body and low. Besides that, training slower, retracting my delts and focusing on the contraction. So many guys, especially with bent over rows, one arm rows, they're using a lot of their upper back and delts. You see a lot of, arm action, a lot of bicep, upper traps, and delts. Basically, the back is behind us. It's behind us, and there's the bicep, there's the rear delt, and there's the traps that get in the way. So you got to do your best to take those muscles out of the equation. And sometimes that means, putting your ego aside and going a little bit lighter. So I still train very heavy, but I control my reps. I don't swing them on the negative. I slow my negatives down anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds. And look, we all know scientifically there's more damage being done on the negative, the eccentric part of the motion. And we all know, well, actually a lot of people might not know, that you're stronger on the negative. So if you can get somebody to pull the weight down for you and do the positive for you, and you just do the negative, you're going to get bigger, stronger, and grow at a faster rate. But it's not cool, and it's not fun, and it doesn't look good for Instagram videos.
It's years ago, it was long before there was YouTube or anything, but the Mensa brothers, they used to have their workout parties or whatever. They would do things like negative squats, negative bench presses, and they were all big, strong guys. You would have to recruit some people that were really, they'd have to be troopers, because they would have to lift all the weight for a 500-pound bench, because if you can bench 350, you can probably lower 500 under control. Like you said, you're stronger in the eccentric portion of the rep.
Technically, you're 25% stronger. That's what they say textbook. But no, I don't believe that. I think for us, at least, bodybuilders, we're much stronger. If you're doing leg extensions, you can lift the weight with 2 legs, lower with 1. That's what I did today. If you're doing hamstring curls, you could pick a weight that you can't do with 1 leg. And you can curl it with 2 and then lower with 1. Squats, if you do like a Smith, is a little safer. You need 2 friends. You put, let's say you have 3 plates on. You go down, they take 1 off. You squat 2 plates, but you lower 3.
Oh my God! These are good friends.
Yeah.
I don't have any friends that good.
Somebody has to invent a machine, like an electronic machine, where you plug in. I want 100 pounds on the contraction, the positive portion of the rep, and I want 300 pounds of the negative.
Because it'll end up at Planet Fitness. We'll never see it.
Doing this technique that we're talking about on back day is really tough. It's not easy.
No, so how many people do you train with?
Unfortunately, none. I train alone. I want to find someone to train with,
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, you're in there at odd times too, aren't you? You're not.
I'm there, I train around 11 o'clock, 10:30, 11 every morning,
Okay. All right, everybody listening, you people of Evan Steves. So it sounds like, are you doing your own prep this time?
No, I'm actually working with my good friend and coach, Andrew Vu.
Oh, okay.
He's been a friend of mine since 2016, and to be perfectly honest, he's kind of been, he's been there. He's been by my side since 2016, and he's seen everything that I did. And regardless who I was working with, I'd always, you always have that one friend that you respect and trust, and you're like, I'm doing this, and he'll give you, give his input, and it's been like that. And in 2016 Olympia, he was by my side after weigh-in. So what better person? I respect him as a coach. I think he's phenomenal. No mumbo jumbo. I've seen, we always compare too. I tell him what I'm doing at the shows and what I'm doing with my clients. He tells me about his clients. So, I've seen what he's capable of, and I like his approach. It's just bare bones intellectual bodybuilding. Nothing like, and he's not pulling a rabbit out of a hat. And we decided a few months back, kind of didn't share it with anybody, but we decided that we're going to work together. So he's been helping me, and we really started this prep early. So we've been working for a while.
I can't remember who else he works with, because I know a couple of people I've interviewed mentioned him.
He has a slew of really, really good guys. A lot of great NPC competitors in Classic. He turned Hunter Labrada pro, Lee Labrada's son.
Yeah, I think it was Hunter then. It was Hunter.
Yeah. Another IFBB Classic Physique Pro that works with him. They're actually together right now in Florida's Santi.
Santiago, okay, yeah.
Aragon.
Santiago, yeah, okay.
There's a bunch of other guys too. Excuse me if I'm forgetting you guys, but he's got a big team. He's got a lot of good guys.
Do you find it amusing? I find it amusing that so much importance is being put on big name coaches now that they pin all their hopes and dreams for a guy that they're a fan of on who he's going to work with. Like, oh, if Rami works with so and so, he'll be Mr. Olympia. Or if Arash works with Chris Aceto, or if he works with Hani, he would definitely be the Olympia champ. Do you think people are starting to put a little bit too much importance on who your coach is?
Well, these people that do this in the sport, like you were talking about, all the hype about the young guys, they're spectators. They don't understand a lot about the sport. Mm-hmm. If you do well and you win, the coach gets tons of praise, right? Especially if you just started working together and he left someone else. If you do bad, the coach get bashed. Listen, the coach basically points, right? They point in the direction, and it's your choice to either walk, jog, sprint, or even crawl. So if you're cheating on your diet, if you're not giving 100%, what is the coach going to be able to do? Mainly, honestly, I mean, it's mainly the last few weeks, especially for someone like me. That's where, it gets difficult for peaking and making weight. That's where it gets tough. But, at this level, if you don't know how to eat and train to get big, or if you don't know how to eat and train to get conditioned for a show, then you're either in the wrong sport or you're probably not going to make it.
I mean, do you think people have been sort of brainwashed, this very new generation, into thinking you can't do it on your own, or you need someone to guide you every step of the way? You're incapable of doing it.
Yes and no. You see, back in the day, guys were bodybuilding for 15 years and starting in their dad's basements or garages. Yeah. When bodybuilding became more mainstream the past decade, more mainstream it is, more people want to do it with shorter periods of training, right? So there's guys that want to compete at a competitive level, win shows and do well after 1, 2, 3 years of training. Do they need coaches? Absolutely. Unless you're going to quit your job, sit home all day and read everything. I learned as much as I did and got as far as I did over the 26 years of a lot of research and trial and error, and it took a long time. Right. Back then we didn't have Instagram or YouTube. I wasn't able to DM Kevin Levrone and ask him a question like guys do today. I had to basically search through Muscle Mayhem. Remember that site?
Oh, dude, I was
the forum. Chad Nichols' forum.
I love that thing. I love Muscle Mayhem.
Read every article. I still own Blood and Guts by Dorian, Unbelievable by Ronnie, and I studied those. That's what we had. So. You don't have to have a coach, but you have to have some background, some intellect, some researching. I get people asking me questions on Instagram posts, not even DMs, that really surprise me. That like, you're really asking something, just Google it. Don't take my advice. Every
day, someone will DM me, how many grams of protein in chicken breast? I said, Google.
Yeah.
You could have Googled that. I'm not. You want me to Google it for you? But
even if I tell you, if I asked you and you told me, I would still Google it.
Right. Exactly. I want the last thing we talk about is something you made an Instagram post in your IG story or IGTV a couple days ago that was really cool, because a lot of the young people now on social media. You talked about the limiting beliefs that are holding a lot of these guys back, and I just thought it was really cool. And I want people to go to Arash's Instagram. It's just his name, Arash Rahbar. You got rid of the underscore somehow. Yeah. But Arash Rahbar's Instagram, and for the full video of it. But can you just sort of summarize it real quickly? Because limiting beliefs, I think it was very, very powerful what you talked about.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, and I'm flattered that you looked at it and liked it. What I was talking about is guys pointing the finger and saying that guy's where he is because he takes this supplement or drug. That guy's where he is because he has great genetics. All you're doing is screwing yourself, because if you believe that that's not possible without those genetics or those drugs, then you're never going to obtain that. And instead of just working their asses off and believing in themselves and just seeing what comes out the other end, guys are without working, without leaving the house, without doing the training or the dieting, they're just saying, well, that's not possible for me because X, Y, Z. And they think it's a very intellectual reason, and they con themselves. They fool themselves. Look, at the end of the day, guys, Everyone can be the best version of themselves, right? I'm not going to bullshit you. If you don't have superb genetics, you're not going to be a Kai Green or Ronnie Coleman. Shit, I'm not going to be a Kai Green or Ronnie Coleman, right? But I can be the best version of me. The guy with less genetics than me can be the best version of him. Everybody could get ripped. Everybody could build muscle. We're not talking about becoming Mr. Olympia. Yet people just want to fault themselves and make excuses and not put in the work. Whatever you say and believe and think in your mind continuously is true. You ask somebody, is the world a beautiful place or is it a dark, evil place? Whatever they answer, they're right. You know, there's a lot of evil in the world. There's a lot of hatred and crime and poverty, and there's a lot of beauty in the world. What you choose to see and you choose to continuously, consistently focus on is what you're going to attract to your life and to yourself. Are you going to sit on the couch and dream about becoming Mr. Olympia and become Mr. Olympia? No. But let's say you get out there and you read and you study and you work just the way I did. And let's just say hypothetically you don't make it. You don't become Mr. Olympia or you don't become pro. What harm was done? You grew, you blossomed, you learned, and most importantly, you lived. That's a definition of living. Going out there, taking risks, putting yourself out there, and taking a chance. Sitting home and knowing a bunch of shit behind a keyboard and not doing anything is not living. You guys are alive, you're breathing, your heart's beating, but you're not living. I hope that answered your question. I didn't go off on a tangent.
No, it did. You answered it very well. It reminded me of, I don't have too many motivational quotes memorized, but one of my favorite ones you just sort of sparked was Henry Ford, the auto giant, said, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
Absolutely. He's the man. He's great. If anyone doesn't know about him, look him up, read about his life story. He was in the book Think and Grow Rich. They mentioned him. They spoke about him.
Napoleon Hill. That book's probably like 70 years old now. It's still a great read.
I love listening to him on YouTube. It's in black and white. If you put in Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and he's sitting there talking, and you know how guys back in like the 40s, 50s, 60s, they sounded different the way they spoke. Yeah. I love listening to it. I listen to him at least once a month. I go and watch the video.
Was he smoking while he was doing it? Because everybody smoked back then.
He wasn't. I don't think he was. He was very well-mannered, sitting behind a desk, speaking very proper in a suit and everything, you know?
Cool. Well, Arash, thank you. You've been very generous with your time. You're one of the first guys I'm talking to about the Olympia because we're about, at this point while we're speaking, we're 14 weeks out?
No, we're like 12 weeks out now.
12? Jeez. Yeah. Time is flying. By the time this comes out, it'll be down to like less than 12 weeks.
Okay.
But yeah, you know, looking forward to seeing you up there again. It'll be a full year, and I really want you to nail it 100% because
it's a lot to me, Ron.
I agree. I've seen every time I see you, I'm like, with the exception of the Arnold. That Arnold, I was like, that's the best. That's the best I've ever seen you. Was the last year's Arnold.
I appreciate it.
You damn near beat Breon. A lot of people.
There's a lot. Listen, I'm growing. I'm still developing. And again, I didn't do that many shows. Like my posing was off in that show. So I really believe I can bring my best this year. And I'm going to change a lot of things. Even my posing. My posing was, you know, there's a lot I can improve in my posing, especially at the Arnold. If you go back and look, my front double, back double wasn't right. But yeah, we have 12 weeks now, and I hope we can do this again, getting closer. I always enjoy talking to you and doing these interviews. And I wish we had more time.
I believe, have you only done 6 pro shows in Classic?
16, I did 3, 17, 1, 18, 2. So this will be my 7th.
That's it.
I did 6 pro bodybuilding shows.
Yeah.
That's all, you know? And I'm the only men's physique, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, I'm just stating facts. I'm the only the guy that turned from men's physique to Classic that's in the top 5 besides Sadiq that was in 2016.
Right.
So currently, I'm competing against bodybuilders and 212 guys. And no excuse. You know, I'm older. I've put in a lot of work. I consider myself a bodybuilder as well. But these are just the facts. These are statistics. I've only peaked for that many shows. I've only been on stage posing for that many shows.
Wow. I mean, Dexter does 6 shows before breakfast every day. So.
Dexter is one of the greatest in that realm of just what he's accomplished and how long he's been doing this. He's the greatest bodybuilder of all time.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Everybody, I remember when he came on the scene, and everybody else from back then is long gone. Long gone.
Yeah, they're in the audience and they're coaching guys on stage.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's awesome on many different levels. I'm a huge fan of his.
Cool. Well, that is all for now. But yeah, let's talk much closer to Olympia. We got a ways to go.
Anytime you like, I'm down. I love these. I love these.
I'm sure there'll be more developments in the next 12 weeks as you continue to improve, get all ripped up, and yeah, that's it, everybody. Check out his Instagram, Arash Rahbar. It's not just selfies. There's actually some nice life advice in there every now and then. It's worth checking out. I believe you have almost a million. You have over 500,000 followers at this point.
No. I'm almost at 500,000. I'm 400 and change.
I predict 500,000 by the Olympia.
Soon. Thank you, Ron. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for watching the Ronline Report. Thank you, Arash Rahbar, for giving us time, sharing all that info. And we'll be following along as you prepare for the Olympia contest. Wishing you the very best over these next weeks of prep.
Thank you very much. It means a lot. I appreciate it.
Everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.